Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to NOLA Theater Talk. It's been a little bit of a minute, but here we are once again. My name is Alan Smason, and I am pleased to be here. And you can watch this show on the NOLA Theater Folk Facebook group, on the theatercriticism.com Facebook page, and on my own YouTube channel. I would like to say that I sort of apologize. We had hoped to have this very group on last Monday, but as it turned out, they were actually not dark, which is a typical situation for most theaters, is that they're dark on Mondays. And that's one of the reasons that I've maintained this show on a Monday night. Friday nights now are not able to be utilized for this show as often, primarily because, theaters are open now and people can go into a darkened theater and see real live theater again, which we couldn't do for so very long. And, we're glad that things are opening up, etc. But again, Monday nights, normally we broadcast from 8 to 9 o'clock. And tonight we are going to have the group that we were going to have on originally scheduled, but didn't work out. But, we're glad that they were able to shift their schedules around. And that's the group from Intramural Theater, who are going to be presenting a production called Cave. And we're going to talk about that in just a little bit. But since I mentioned Intramural Theater, I had to go long and far to find Intramural Theater's brand, but I did get the logo, and maybe this will work. Here we go. There it is, Intramural Theater. Let me bring in the director of Cave right now, if I may, and those of you who have seen the work know exactly what we're going to talk about. But if you haven't, I want you to listen very closely, because this is a really fascinating piece. I think that you've got a lot going on. You're going to really appreciate the writing and the set design and the sound effects, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm going to just say that I've been very pleased to give a very positive review to it earlier on Stepping Out, But again, Cave is what we're talking about. And let's bring in the director, Bennett Kirschner. Bennett, I'd like to welcome you once again to the show. And again, you are the director of Cave. And as far as Intramural Theater goes, are you one of the principals in the production company?
Yeah, I am the artistic director, although kind of how we reach decisions, I think we love to work on a non-hierarchical, consensus-based decision-making process as much as possible. So I tend to shy away from using that term. I'm an ensemble member of one of two founding members who has since grown the company to what it is today.
So again, you're working as the director in this particular project, but it's, as you said, it's sort of a collaborative kind of project, similar to what used to go on with Andrew Vaught and his group years ago. And I would imagine Goat in the Road is very similar in terms of what they do to they all take ownership of their characters, etc. And we'll talk about that. Mary Claire Davis is about to come in, as well as C.A. Munn, who is the playwright. But as she confessed, she calls herself the playwright, but a lot of this actually was, you might even think about it as maybe being steeped in an atmosphere in which everybody contributes a little something to it. Everybody puts a little something in the gumbo, as it were, to make it better. So again, you are heralding, if you will, this particular project. You're as the director, but very important, obviously, is the playwright, and we're going to bring her in as well. C.A. Munn. Is it Munn or Munn?
Munn.
Because there's a very famous poppy seed dessert filling called Munn, and it's spelled, I think, the same way. Anyway,
similar.
glad to have you. C.A. Again, that's your, if you will, your nom de plume, huh? I would imagine your working title. But Do you ever go by your real first name at all, or no?
Oh yeah, you can call me Cam.
Okay, all right, no problem. Glad to have you. And again, I want to find out before we bring in your other actor, Mary, just a little bit about how this project started. How in the world did you come up with the whole concept of Cave? Was it something that struck you, Cam, first, and that you brought to the attention of Bennett and the rest of the people who were on if you will, the staff there, and said, look, why don't we try to do this? Or how did you come up with it? I mean, what was the impetus? What was the if you will, the spark that led to it?
Well, Bennett can probably speak to the devising process that Intramural Theater uses a little better, but this was definitely not a seed that started with me. In fact, coming onto the project, I didn't actually expect to be writing the script at all. I was brought on as a deviser, a collaborator, performer, and we started with just the seed of inspiration of the theme, reincarnation. And from there, we collaboratively eventually arrived at an outline together as a group that I ultimately ended up being the principal writer for taking that outline and then putting it on the page and making it into a working script.
So would you call yourself the star, or do you think it's really a an ensemble piece?
I think it's an ensemble piece. Each one of these characters has their own very integral part of the story to tell, and their own arc, and there's their own moment in the spotlight as well. And that was important to me, definitely in the writing process, to really try to evenly distribute the dramatic material among all the collaborators.
And again, you play Adrienne, and again, there's two other actors who are in the play who are not going to be on tonight. Stan, played by Benjamin Doherty, I believe that's the proper name, the way to pronounce the name, and then Zoe is Anna Karina Delage. Is that correct?
Delahaye.
Yeah. Delahaye. Okay.
Anna Karina.
Anna Karina
Yeah.
Delahaye. Okay. So that's a little Russian and a little something else. I'm not quite sure what else is going in there, but that's great. And Mary, I'm going to bring Mary Claire Davison now, but I make sure that you're not on mute, Mary. So yeah, very good. So now we have you. All four of us are in the room tonight. And again, anybody who wants to comment, I would recommend that you go to this site, StreamYard.com/Facebook. It allows your name to show up. So if you want to have a comment, you have a question, you want to find out a little bit about Cave or maybe a little bit more about Intramural Theater, please. We can post those almost immediately when you post a comment. So keep that in mind. So now everybody's here. Mary, your character is Crowbar, and Crowbar is the videographer, if you will, that is I guess essentially capturing. We have a train passing, huh?
Sorry. Yeah.
It's okay, no problem. Crowbar is essentially doing the videography and trying to capture the moment, if you will, that Adrienne is in charge of with this group, and invariably she wants things to be showing her in a very positive light, and Crowbar is interested in basically, shooting it and just doing it as a documentarian and not necessarily embellishing it and going back and redoing and things of that sort. So she's got her work cut out for her. Again, let's get to a little bit. I wanted to show a few of the people who haven't seen the show a little bit about the way that it's done. First off, you all were very kind. You did give me the opportunity to have a couple of photos, and I'm going to show those. But the thing I really wanted to talk about was the set design. I was so captivated by, when we talk about cave, it takes place in a literal cave. And when they, at the Backyard Ballroom, shut the doors leading into that room, the air conditioning's off, and you almost get a feeling of being inside a cave, similar to what you might have in a subterranean type of environment. You feel kind of close to everybody in the audience. And I'm not claustrophobic, but were I to be claustrophobic, I might have been a little bit unnerved by that, which I think makes Bennett very happy.
Did you notice the scent? We burnt some incense in there too.
Yeah, there was a lot going on. I mean, a lot going on. But the thing is it was still inside. No air conditioning going on, and you kind of really felt like you were part of some interior, unlike in a darkened theater. It was different, and I love this set design. Maybe you could tell me a little bit the stalactites, the stalagmites, etc. Who rendered this? This is who was it that did this set design?
So that was a joint effort. I make this distinction in designs that I guess few, if any, other theater artists make between the idea of set design and scenic design, right? That there is an individual who is going to create the basic structure, the framework for the playing space, and then there will be another person who will dress it, who will provide the texture and adornments, whatever those may be. So we had Adam Turek, who's done set design all over the city. He did a lot of work for Cripple Creek while they were around, doing set design. And Nicole Wysocki worked with Anna Karina De La Haye, as well as Lauren Barron on the scenic design. And the scenic design also included props, but everything you're talking about, the stalactites, the stalagmites, the moss, the things that kind of created the texture of the world. That was the scenic design.
I got you. So you had essentially 4 people working on both the set by Adam and the scenic by Nicole, Anna, and Lauren. So that's a nice team of people working on it. And there's a lot going on. Anybody who hasn't seen the work, again, it's at 3519 St. Claude Avenue, the Backyard Ballroom, and it starts. The time is it at 8 o'clock? Is that right? 8 o'clock. And so you come in and it's not a short over within an hour. You're in there for a good long time as this thing rectifies itself, if you will. The time is set in 1999, so it's not modern, but it's 23, 24 years ago, and it's set in what they say the Long Tooth Caverns. But again, I guess it could be in any caverns, Mammoth Cave or something like that, wherever there would be an opportunity for a party to go exploring. Now, Mary, your character Crowbar, I think I've got a couple of. I know there's one here where you're doing your monologue. That's sort of later on in the play, and there's another one where I know you were filming, and that really is a great prop. Now, that's something that I guess you had to go out and find as far as the old video camera, huh?
Yeah, it belongs to Cam's parents. They're
really
camcorder. We also practiced with one of Bennett's camcorder, which still had some pretty fun old video and pictures on it. I very vividly remember playing with a camcorder as a kid and making little movies, and so I was very drawn to that character.
Yeah, and again, your job as a videographer is to document everything. And as I mentioned earlier, Adrienne's decided that it's going to be her documentary, and so you all are at sort of at loggerheads with each other. Bit, although you do defer to her, and you're in charge. I understand. And then again, you've got Zoe, who is not here tonight, but as we mentioned earlier, Anna Karina, who De La Haye, she has a. I guess you might say she's got scientific credentials, that she actually is the only one on the party who really is a legitimate scientist who's investigating whatever it is that they're investigating, and lending a scientific credibility to the party. Because if Adrienne were by herself, I think a lot of people would probably say, it's her party, and it's really not scientific in any way. So tell me a little bit about the way you wrote this, Cam. Can you go into a little bit of the process? You wrote something on paper and then presented it to everybody, and then they started to flesh it out. Was that kind of the way it went?
Essentially, I started out with, luckily, a very detailed outline that we had all collaboratively built at the end of our generative period of the rehearsal process. So I had a detailed outline to guide my writing, which I mostly adhered to, although, as you go along, you figure things out and tweak things. And I was always sort of in discussion with Bennett, especially at that time, about little changes. And Bennett and I were working closely together to get this script written. And I sort of ended up like we decided that I would take on the bulk of the writing, but Bennett was also, he had his hand in it as well. That we were looking at the outline, and I was thinking, okay, I'm drawn to writing this scene. I'm going to flesh this out. Maybe can you pick up this scene here? And then I would go back and look at what he'd written and try to sort of bring a little bit more continuity to the voice, just to keep it all seeming like one cohesive whole. And then, we came up with a draft that way, and I brought that to the group. And we had a couple workshops where we read it, and, it was open for anyone to say anything they wanted, make suggestions, and they had great feedback, which really helped improve the script over the course of a few drafts.
Who came up with the idea of the rock milk?
So, I mean, so many of the ideas in the script were kind of organically discovered through the process of sharing space together, creating new ideas. It's actually a very exciting process, Alan, that I'd love to tell you a little bit about. This is now our fourth piece that we've generated using this process in New Orleans. So it starts, as Cam was saying, with a seed, a single theme or idea that's very vague, very nebulous, but exciting, invites a lot of contemplation and different interpretations. And with this piece, we did reincarnation as our seed. And in the past, it's been synesthesia. We did another piece on voyeurism. But from that, we will curate collectively a set of source materials. Those may be academic texts, those may be documentaries or movies, they may be what else did we use? Anything else on reincarnation?
We used some religious texts a little bit.
Jeremy also brought in some kind of audio recording, if I'm some kind of radio special from the 1930s or something.
Oh, yeah.
Sent out.
Anyway, talked to someone. We interviewed this woman who's sort of a new age spirit guide in the New Orleans area.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, again, I brought up the rock milk because it figures into the storyline, but I wasn't sure whether or not the rock milk was what was generating sort of these visions, or whether or not there really was rock milk being given by the cave. Or perhaps, maybe it was really herb scent frappe. We don't know, because that's what I have right now, and it could be rock milk.
That looks like it could be rock milk.
Yeah.
I explained the process of making this is rather interesting. You take a special glass with a hole in the bottom of it. There, you put ice into it, and then you put your herb scent through it, so it gets chilled. And obviously a little bit of water in there, as well as some simple syrup to sort of sweeten it. And you have a Herb Scent Frappe. I did want to ask you all what y'all brought in too, since I don't know what rock milk you've got to represent there, but let's find out. Bennett, you go ahead.
Oh, I've been sipping on some Holy Roller from Urban South. Generally, when I do drink, and that's not all too often, I drink beers.
Is that an IPA? Is that like an IPA?
That's right. It's an IPA. It's very
good.
delicious. It's very tasty.
Hoppy or not hoppy?
I don't think it's hoppy.
Okay. All right, Mary, what you got?
It is hoppy. Excuse me.
What you got, Mary?
Oh, I wish I had some rock milk.
But
I just have whiskey and ginger ale.
That's all right. Any particular whiskey or a particular type of whiskey? Bourbon? Huh?
Jim Beam? Yeah.
Jim Beam. Okay. Yeah. Jim Beam will work. And Cam, what you got?
I'm trying one that's new to me. It's Prairie Artisan Ales Vape Tricks Sour Ale Aged on Cherries.
Okay.
Oh, I got that recently.
Interesting. Yeah. And does it taste decent, or is it something you'd have it again?
No, actually, it is decent. Yeah.
Okay.
I like a good sour on occasion.
Well, I believe that the operative term for going caving is spelunking, and so anybody tonight is wondering what we're doing. We're spelunking. We're talking about cave. This is at the Backyard Ballroom, presented by Intramural Theater. And we want everybody to have an opportunity to make a comment if they want to ask any questions about the process, about the play itself. It runs is it about 2 hours? Is that about the right amount of time?
It's 80 minutes.
80 minutes. Okay. So it's not quite an hour and a half. It just, you know what, the time sort of stands still. It felt like a little bit longer than it was, but that's not bad. I mean, it was good because I was in the moment and just trying to follow along with all the action. But again, I recommend that if you get a chance, I know you have a specific long URL to get the tickets, right? And I know it's not like your website that you can go to intramuraltheater.com, right? It's like,
well, you could, but Rick, to tell you the truth, Alan, we have sold out both of our remaining shows. So,
okay. All right. Well, then we don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
That's good news.
That's
good news. So again, it's interesting. You said synesthesia about one of the earlier works, which for people who have to go look that up, it's essentially where people can hear sounds, right? People like Billy Joel.
Well, there are various iterations and forms of synesthesia, but yeah, there are the ones where
it's
you
like
can hear
the
colors.
Yeah,
you can see musical notes. You can. The one we ended up focusing on for this particular piece was a condition called mirror touch synesthesia, in which people have an excess of mirror neurons, feel too much empathy to a point where it reaches a physiological level. And if I have this condition, Alan, and I see you like somebody tapping you on your left shoulder, my mirror neurons will replicate that experience, and I will feel as if I'm being tapped on my left shoulder. Oh. So that was kind of that is what we landed on as the primary focus of that particular piece. Yeah.
But now Cave deals with a lot of different personalities, and I'm sorry that we weren't able to get the other actors who were in this, but I understand it's their night off. Not everybody can deal with that. But Benjamin Daugherty, who plays Stan, very interesting character. Now, did he develop that, or did you all write it? He came into it after you kind of fleshed it out, or how did that happen?
Everybody who was on the stage, included a lot of the crew members as well, were a very essential, indispensable part of the devising process. So yeah, the parts for Cam, for Mary, for Ben, for Anna, all of those parts were developed with those individuals in mind. And if I'm not mistaken, all of them were not only developed with them in mind, but originated by them as we were kind of generating shorter tableaus or etudes, whatever you want to call them, that we then used as kind of the roux for the piece once we outlined it.
Well, you can get an idea about maybe some of the the acting that's going on there, the process he's got. A little bit of interesting approach there. And he plays a guy who's in the cave. We're not sure for how long, right?
He says 15 years at one point, but his mind's a little, so
Yes.
who knows?
Yeah.
You know, what is night or day inside a cave?
Exactly.
Time. Pretty hard.
Well, again, when he arrives, the piece takes a definite turn. It's prior to that, it's all about the exploring, and then all of a sudden he's there, and things actually start to deviate a bit, right? I mean, in terms of the piece takes off. I can't imagine, you're trying to glean some kind of experience. Did you all try to go somewhere in a cave and try to get an experience as to what it was like, or did you just sort of imagine this from the gray matter there and just summon it for it that way?
I think we all applied some of our own personal experiences with caves, especially Anna Karina, who plays Zoe. She was drawing on some real life experience.
She'd been in a cave before?
We haven't done a field trip yet. We've talked about it. We haven't done a field trip. There's only one cave in Louisiana.
It's got to be up in the north, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Well,
it's
not easy to get to.
they have a number of Indian mounds, etc., that are in the northern area, and of course to our northwest in Mississippi, the Natchez area, etc. But yeah, I mean, I would imagine that we dig too far down here, we're not going to get a cave. We're going to get a tunnel. So pretty much. Again, this is a great shot here of UCAM and again Zoe, who is Anna Karina Delahaye. Again, a little confrontation there because it's the science versus the reality show, if you will. It's kind of, that's what it is, right? I mean, although the reality shows in 1999 were probably not that refined yet, but they did have some. But yeah, I mean, it's a lot of fun to see that particular dynamic, and I think as the show goes on, and I don't want to give too much of it away, but I think that Zoe, really gets hard pressed to deal with what's going on, and to I think validate the fact that she has real problems with this particular expedition, that it's it's gone south, literally and figuratively, in terms of what she was anticipating happening. And in terms of some of the other shots that y'all were provided, again, there you are with the camera, and it's on the walls there. Really very effective. I hope that people will get a chance. Those that are already booked to see it will get a chance to see it. Any chance this will be coming back, or will this?
I mean,
it
has been extremely successful by many accounts. Lots of people. We've been getting like rave reception, and we've sold out now 8 out of 10 of our performances. So it's definitely tempting. We talked about doing some kind of extension, but it just seemed like people's schedules weren't,
but
could not.
It's not always that you are, you don't have the cooperation of the venue. The venue say, "Oh yeah, you can go another week." And the problem is everybody else's schedules. If you all are are good actors or good directors or whatever, you're in demand, and it's difficult, to say, well, we'll keep something open ended because your next particular job, gig, whatever you want to call it, may indeed be starting the following week after this is ending, and you've gone, and it's difficult to be able to give up that kind of extra time and commit. I mean, when it happens, it's great. They do it all the time on Broadway. They do it all the time, in other areas. But, when you're doing community theater like this and the actors are depending on work, it's difficult to leave extra time in between just in case something might be held over. I love some of these shots are really wonderful. That is the actor Benjamin Darty, again, who plays Stan, and he has a very special role. Would you say he's mystical, spiritual? How would you describe him?
Well, in my conception of the character as I was writing him, what came to the forefront was sort of his that he needs dogma. He is spiritual, but in a sort of a dogmatic way, that he believes he knows the rules, he's got it all figured out. He believes in the cave. He basically sort of worships the cave as his god, pretty much. But it's sort of a closed off spiritualism, as opposed to Zoe's more open to receiving whatever messages or visions or truth. She sees herself more as a student, whereas Stan, the character Stan, sees himself as an authority of the way of the cave.
Yeah. It's fascinating the way that these things come about, and like you said, it's a process. You would have added more texture to it as you went along, and I would imagine that the original work, as you had it on the page, deviates quite a bit from what you've got now as a finished work. So, and again, well, it should. I mean, that's that's part of this collaborative process. Again, we're talking tonight to representatives from Intramural Theater. We have Bennett Kirschner here, who's the director, and we appreciate him being here. Mary Claire Davis and C.A. Munn, who is also Munn, who is the writer, if you will, the playwright of this particular piece. And again, we hope that people, if they've got any comments, we'll talk about it. If you've seen the work, please, by all means, give us a little bit of an insight as to how you felt about seeing it, and perhaps something that we can glean from. I just think that there was so much going on, in this work, that a lot of people who might not be able to see it now are going to kind of regret the fact that they didn't take the opportunity. But like you said, you sold out for the last two shows, so there's not much else you can do. And let's just face it, right now you're trying to get as many days in of theater before the Mardi Gras balls start off, the parades start off, and everything else that's happening, because that is a major, if you will, a conflict for theater in this town. We have ostensibly, several different seasons. We've got the season that starts between Christmas and Mardi Gras, and then you've got Mardi Gras, and then after that you've got the season between Mardi Gras and Jazz Fest, and then you've got the season after Jazz Fest into the summer, and then it starts all over again. It's just, unfortunately, this is part of the way the town operates, and God help us if the Saints do very well, and then December shows get a little bit of, cockeyed, and people don't know whether or not they can come, and, well, the game's on, we don't know. So it's difficult. Anyway, but that's New Orleans theater for you. That's the way it goes. Again, I'd like to get a sort of a little bit of understanding in terms of this particular piece. How long did it take you to actually, from the time you envisioned it, came up with the original script and worked it out, from the time that you actually had that collaborative process to the time that it actually was on the stage and you were open for business? How long was that period?
Yeah, so Alan, just to make sure I understand what your question is, there are three kind of distinct phases of this process. There's the first generative process, in which we're kind of like coming up with new material, throwing it out, coming up with new material, throwing it out, and then kind of like collecting what we like. That's the first phase. Second phase is kind of the workshop process, in which whomever is writing takes the script and starts developing it and comes up with drafts, brings it into the group for various feedback sessions. And then there's, of course, the conventional rehearsal process. We had kind of this interesting stop and start rehearsal process that started, was it late November? Is that when we started? It was last week of November?
Yeah, it was right after Thanksgiving.
Yeah. So right after Thanksgiving, we had 2 weeks of rehearsal when we blocked out the play, totally on book. And then folks had 2 weeks off for the holidays, and everybody was asked to memorize during that period of time. Then we had one brief week, like 4 days or so, of what we called pickup rehearsals, right? Where basically everybody for the first time were off book, and we were able to do a little more character work, a little more refinement of the blocking of the character choices. And then we went straight into a very leisurely, very luxurious 2-week tech, which also was sort of stop and start with various days off. I learned about the 2-week tech from the Radical Buffoons' John Green, and I am never going back.
Well, at least you didn't have a sitz probe with an orchestra that you had to worry about. But no. So you basically, for the time that you really got the finished script, you're saying that you really kind of fleshed things out ahead of time. But around the end of November, so your rehearsal process was pretty much all of whatever you could get in during December, and then you were open in January. So
yeah. And also the rehearsal phase, I should add, incorporated a little bit of workshopping. So, I would say a third, a fourth of each of those rehearsals during the first 2 weeks included a fair, we would read through the text, we would ask any questions we had related to the character, related to, whatever themes, motif, whatever it may have been. And then if there was any, if we deemed it appropriate, we might collectively edit it, talk about cuts, talk about additions, things of that nature. And that's something I really cherish about this process, is this collective sense of ownership, that we are all generating it together, that it could not have come from anyone other than this collective group of people.
And again, you put your own stamp, on it, each one of you as it goes. When you get it finished, are you thinking about maybe codifying it, putting it into a published work, or have you even thought about that? I mean, you only have 2 more shows. What happens with it afterwards? Does it go off into the ether, or do you keep it and let others do it?
It's tough, Alan. I mean, this is a question for everyone, but this is now the 4th piece we've devised. I think, the last one we did, Apostles, was like comparably, Apostles of Everest is the full name, was comparably successful. And, I've done that with that piece. I've shopped it around, after writing The Wave of the glowing reception and full houses. And honestly, it's not to say like nothing could ever happen, but as I'm sure you're aware, it can be a frustrating process, like trying to get a foot in any door, because there's so much amazing original work. There's so much, there are so many plays that theater companies understandably and justifiably want to do. So
You know what I like about this though is it's a piece that's for 4 people, you know, which keeps it small. It's a piece that could be improvised in a lot of small black box theaters. It could be something that could be done in a campus setting easily, you know, and it's new, you know, you know, it's not Waiting for Godot again, you know, or something that people have done and you know, it's fresh, it's new, and it's something that I think might have you know, a little bit of length of years that you know you might be able to get in a different setting. Again, you have to be prepared, I guess, to let it go in a sense that you know you're not going to be able to do anything more with it. You're gonna have to have other people, you know, accept it as it is and you know, work with it as you've got it there. But just food for thought. I mean, it seems to me that all that work and all that energy and all that inspiration, you know, should probably not go unrewarded insofar as other people might not be able to see the work today, but maybe they'd be able to see it sometime in the future. So just something to think about.
Thank
you. Know, I guess, you know, we have about 20 minutes or so left. We've pretty much covered. I think I've shown all the pictures. You know, we've pretty much done everything in terms of talking about the different pieces. Make sure that we did. Yeah, we did that. We did Stan. So I think we get pretty good in terms of covering this particular production. What is going to happen? I know you all did The Cook not that long ago, correct? That was very well received. I know that several people on the Big Easy Theater Committee had talked about it, and I'm not really at you know liberty to disclose anything about any of the awards that might be coming up, etc. But you know, the fact is that you all were entered into the conversation, you know, and that it did manage to pique people's interest. So you know, that was another interesting piece that was done, and in an outdoor setting. I was pleased to see that you all did this indoors, but you could not have done this outdoors. I don't think that the way that this particular
unless we were actually in a cave.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, you're right. I mean, you really have to be inside a room and really have to feel the stillness and everything else that goes on with the cave. I think that it's an experience, and I hope that maybe it was the incense, maybe it was the the moss growing on the wall or whatever. But I mean, it was all very effectively done, and I think that those lucky people who were there for the last couple of shows should be thankful that they're going to be able to see it. And those of us who saw it before, you know, are grateful that we had the opportunity to, because it's an unusual work, and you know, there's certain things that people do all the time, and I'm not going to say that they're repetitive, but I will say that they tend to run one after the other. It's similar to what anybody else has done. This is unusual work. It's never been done. It's obviously something that comes from your own hearts, but it's also something that I think captures the imagination, and that's part of the best of what theater offers, is to make people think about certain things, and the conversations that can begin from being involved and seeing this kind of an experience in a darkened theater. And so again, I think it had a good effect on me, and I hope that you'll use that as a continued inspiration for you all to continue doing the kind of work that you did here. But I'm wondering, do you have anything on the boards that you're thinking about doing next, or have you all even thought about it? You've only got 2 more shows on this one left, so anything that you can reveal, or anything you're planning?
To tell you the truth, Alan, kind of the beauty of Intramural is that everything's sort of spontaneous and improvised. I'm sure we'll have a gathering in the next couple of weeks once the dust has settled from this production, and we'll sit down and kind of daydream collectively about what the next step is. We don't have any formal, and maybe this is a next step in our evolution. Maybe we need to and we are working towards becoming more of an institution so that we can, have a more sustainable financial model.
Yeah. You said you were together for like 5 or 6 years now, right?
We've been around since early 2015. So this is our 8th year or 9th year. We're in our 9th.
Well, okay, 2015. Okay, this is 2023. So okay.
My family's just joined for this production.
I mean, 2 years though. We were in COVID, so you really, I don't know that you could actually count much of that, in terms of, what offerings that you could have other than
I mean,
maybe
we were doing like virtual things, things of that nature. But I mean, I think we can erase that from the history books for all theater companies.
And again, I learned the value of connecting people. We had our own readings on this format, and we had several different plays. I was grateful that John Bigonnet had offered us the opportunity to remount his Rising Water trilogy, and we had Nita and Zita. That was such a wonderful work too. That Lisa D'Amour had gotten together with Kathy Randalls, and just some great pieces that entertained people and kept the theater community sort of together in a sense of there was a show. It's difficult to be entertained when you're at home and there's nowhere to go, and I really was quite concerned that we still haven't gotten out of it yet in terms of that the effect on theater going would be impacted, and it has been, and there's probably 10% of the audience that just has disappeared. The people that you used to see a lot, they're not going on anymore, and I don't think that they're necessarily afraid. They just they just have a different mindset. I think that those 2 years in COVID lockdown made them reevaluate what was the value of going out, and for them it's not worth the risk for whatever good or bad that is. And as I always told everybody, they said, what'll get you into a theater? I said, an open door. So for me, it's real important to continue to see different works. That's why I see as many as I do, because I think it's important to be able to report on it, from the standpoint of not just a reviewer, but from the standpoint of letting people know. It's so important for me to see your work here and to let people know, those that were able to, that they shouldn't miss it. So in terms of the kind of things that you like to do, I'm not sure that this is necessarily representative of but when you, Bennett, like to go see something, what do you gravitate towards? Plays or musicals, or do you like to do more artistic kind of I don't know, maybe imaginative works? Then are there any things that you like to do or like to see?
I would say the central thing that kind of like unifies my aesthetic is I'm drawn to plays that ask questions but don't provide answers, which I think this play is a consummate example of.
Right.
I am drawn to plays that both in my own work and in the work of others that do not make someone feel as if they are walking out on the right side of history, right? It asks questions about our own culpability. It asks questions that invite critical conversation, right? And that's that is, it sounds vague, but I really do think that, especially in today's day and age, there is a lot of creative work that tends to provide those answers. So it's in order to take this place of righteousness, and I am very curious always in investigating those those corners and pockets of culture, of our like mutual understanding, that are more ambiguous, more difficult, more murky. And yeah, that's, you know, I saw the Ponsili brothers work earlier this year. Have you seen any of their work? It's pretty astonishing.
No, I can't say I have. So.
Yeah, it's quite literally spectacular. They have giant puppets that are, you know, emerging out of each other's, excuse me for being so crass, out of each other's buttholes. You know, it's
Okay.
very, it's very
Very
exciting, bizarre
Puerto
work. It's from Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
You know, there are all sorts of, you know, and of course, like many local companies' work that I'm drawn to, Goat in the Roads, Radical Buffoons. You bringing up Goat in the Road earlier, along with Cripple Creek, those are, you know, Trisha, who is also a member of our very small company. She was a member of Cripple Creek, one of the original members. And
Right.
you know, my own devising process, I learned so much from watching Goat in the Road, their process of development. I served as an assistant stage manager, which really just meant I was allowed to be a fly on the wall for their Uncle Vanya, which was many years ago.
Yeah.
Not
yeah.
many years ago,
Yeah.
but, you know, a few years
Right.
ago. In 2015, I think. And that really informed kind of how I built this process. Yeah.
Okay. Cam, I wanted to find out a little bit about you too, a little bit more. What are some of the playwrights you like? Who you know, kind of floats your boat, so to speak?
Well, I think that I mean there are playwrights that I've gravitated to, but I think individual works tend to stick with me more than, say, trying to be an aficionado of any one person's whole canon.
Right.
And some of those works that really stand out to me, one is Fifu and Her Friends by Maria Rien-Fernez. And that play is, to me, sort of really exemplifies the sort of theatrical experience that I love to have, which is being totally bewildered, but not in an alienating way, in a way where I feel I feel an emotional connection to what is happening, but even with poring over the script and trying to pick it apart, it's impossible to distill it down to some equation of like how the playwright combined all these pieces that are so hard to sort of pin down what exactly is she doing, but somehow they all combine into this bewildering but sort of emotionally overwhelming experience that really is transporting.
Yeah, no, I was just trying to get an idea if you were familiar, you know, or you were taken with any of the works like Sarah Rule, Lauren Gunderson, you know, perhaps Dominic Morisseau or Lynn Nottage, any of those people who, you know, represent some of the, you know, the best of our female writers now for plays. Just, you know, if any of them have taken you to a place that maybe you hadn't expected, or, you know.
I mean, I've read some of Nottage's works and Sarah Rule, and I think I'm probably drawn a little bit more to the stranger,
right?
well,
and of course, you know, Sarah Rule's stuff, the Clean House, you know, Dead Man Says, those are pretty strange, you know. So, you know,
well, I haven't acquainted myself with all of her catalog yet.
Yeah. So, and again, you know, I don't mean to put you on the spot there. I mean, you know, they may not be your particular cup of tea, and I understand that. So, but I just, as somebody who is a playwright, I just was sort of interested in trying to get an idea about if there was a particular person or particular style of writing that you enjoyed. You know, just try to get a little bit more in depth than you and what you're all about. So you come from where you hail from?
I grew up in Pennsylvania, State College, Pennsylvania, but I live in New Orleans now for about 4 years.
And what brought you here in terms of are you working?
I came down here for grad school.
Okay.
I attended University of New Orleans
And
MFA.
Justin Maxwell had said that you were one of his students, right? So
that's right.
I wouldn't want to let the night go by without him knowing that I mentioned his name.
Yeah.
Now he writes some rather interesting works too. That
yes.
Yes. So you're learning at the hand of the master there in terms of strange things and things he writes about. So that's great too. And Mary, where are you from originally?
I grew up in Virginia.
That's a big state now.
So Memphis, but mostly grew up in the DC area.
Okay. And DC has quite a very big theater community as well. They've got quite a number of people in DC. Baltimore too, but really DC has quite a bit of active theater companies and people who write about it too. That's one of the things we don't have a lot of here in New Orleans is people who write about theater and write about it passionately. So I know that there are quite a number of my fellow theater critics from the American Theater Critics Association who are based in Washington. So
you could actually say I exist in many ways because of the studio theater in Washington, D.C. That is where my parents met in a Shakespeare class. They were both early students of Joy Zinnemann's in the conservatory. And my mom went on to direct plays there. And so, yeah, I grew up with the studio theater in Washington.
Yeah. Well, like I say, I'm glad that you're here. Did you come down for your studies too, or were you brought here for another reason?
No, I've been here about 5 years. I also have a history background. So I've been working in museums mostly, in addition to working with Intramural.
Ah, very good. So history, like Southern history or
Yeah, I work for the Whitney Plantation.
Oh, okay. Well, and that's got to be a fascinating background for you, backstory about that and getting involved with it. One of these days, I guess I'll have to ask a little bit more about your background with that. So we're running out of, fortunately, but that's fantastic. And are you there full time, or are you there just as a advisor? Full time. Okay.
Yeah, well, I worked in the French Quarter for a while, and I actually worked with Goat in the Road when they did a production at the Gallier Historic House.
I remember it was The Uninvited, right?
Yes. So I was a dramaturg and assistant stage manager for that production.
Yeah.
And I also worked at the house.
So this week we are doing you guys, Intramural Theater, not next week, which is what I've got on the calendar, because I just remembered I actually am doing a Mardi Gras ball rehearsal on. Again, you see, I told you that Mardi Gras stuff gets in the way, but I'm doing a Mardi Gras ball rehearsal.
What is a Mardi Gras ball rehearsal?
Well, if I had to tell you, explain it to you, I might have to kill you.
Okay.
Secret societies. No, actually, Mardi Gras ball rehearsals where they actually have all of the participants, the maids, the dukes, the ladies in waiting, the junior maids, etc. They show them how to move around the floor and what they have to do. That's basically it. We incorporate sometimes music, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you have the Zitz probe and sometimes you don't. But in any event, so in 2 weeks, Goat in the Road, we hope to have on to talk about role play, which they will have just finished doing at Tulane. It's going to be 25th through, I think, is it the 25th through the 5th, I think, of February. And so they're going to be at the Tulane campus talking about sexuality and mores and things of that sort that's going on as taken from a survey that they devised that piece, and also talk about what they just got finished doing at the BK house, the Beauregard Kai's house, which of course was the family line. And I certainly would love to mention anything I could about The Uninvited, which was done obviously at the Gallier house and would probably still be going on if it were not for COVID. It was a delightful piece. So, unfortunately, it's one of those things that they got shut down early on, but not before a lot of people got to see it and comment about it. So again, I want to thank you all for being with me tonight. You know, the hour sometimes starts to get a little slow, and then it speeds up. So we went through it. We managed to make it through 1 hour, and I, again, appreciate you being with me again tonight. We have had Bennett Kirschner and C.A. Munn, and again Mary Claire Davis here on NOLA Theater Talk. I'm going to ask you all to stick around just a little bit before I say goodbye to everybody else. So if you all just stick around a little bit, I'll say goodbye to you privately. But again, this is NOLA Theater Talk. My name is Alan Smason. Again, you can watch this archived. It's on YouTube and etc. But you can see it on the NOLA Theater Folk Facebook group, on the theatercriticism.com Facebook page, and my own YouTube channel. I thank you very much. We'll skip next week, but we'll be back in 2 weeks with Goat the Road Productions, and I'll see you